What would you say if you can make $8,100 a month for 6 months, completely guaranteed and paid for by the insurance companies? This is exactly what we're breaking down today. Everything midterm rentals with Jesse Vasquez. Welcome to the Cash Flow Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Josh Baldovino, and on this show, you can join us live as we interview investors and share how they are increasing their cash flow. So grab a drink and let's get into it. And Jesse is a midterm rental, which means hosting to travel nurses and corporate travels, and he is the ninja behind it all over at AirVenture Hosting Co. Jesse, how you doing today?
What's up, dude? That intro made me want to grab a beer like really bad. I wish I had a beer right next to me right now, but I have this.
I usually have this at 4:30, so I guess right now it's coffee. And what do you have in your glass?
I got a good old fashioned tap water here for everybody. Having some. We don't really have good tap water out here, so I'm kidding. It's Alhambra. I get it delivered.
That. So you're fancy now.
I know, man.
So real quick, Jesse, for those who don't know who you are, real quick, tell us who you are, what the origin story is, and what the heck is midterm rentals?
Yeah, so my name's Jesse Vasquez, real estate investor, entrepreneur, all that stuff that makes me sound way cooler than what I actually really am. I got into the midterm rental stay. I actually worked in healthcare. So for those of you that Josh, maybe you could put a link up to the top to our first video that we had. I really break into what my story is on that, but I'll just leave this as a really lame, broken down version. I just started working in healthcare, saw that there's travel medical professionals coming into the market. And I realized, holy shit, there's an opportunity here to house these professionals because they were staying at Motel 6. They were staying at places that weren't desirable and not good areas. And I was working on the hospital floors and they were telling me that. So I finally realized, like, there's opportunity here. They're paying X amount of money to stay in these properties and I can house them. So it all kind of started based off of that. This is like pre-COVID, tons of travel medical professionals, even prior to COVID happening. This area in the Central Valley where I'm located, Modesto, has always had a nursing shortage. And there's shortages all over the U.S., all over the freaking place. And there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of people to really take advantage of, this shortage in the staff, unfortunately.
So this has been your niche and your focus. And how many midterm rental units are you at now?
I'm co-hosting 15. We have 9 midterm rentals right now.
Gotcha.
9.
And then in terms of numbers, like break that down. So a long-term rental could potentially do what in that same unit? Just, generalized blanket. A short-term rental, like your regular vacation rental, would do what? And then where does midterm rentals fall in that scope?
Yeah. So my markets, there's a seasonality to them. So I do what's called the hybrid model, but I'll talk about that here in a little bit. So a long-term rental, let's just give an average 3-bedroom, 2-bath, would probably do about, I'm going to say right around $2,200 a month as a long-term rental, which, I mean, if you're watching this in the Bay Area, you're thinking like that's cheap. But here, the housing rental market has gone up like a lot incrementally over the last 2 years since COVID. So $2,200 to $2,300 a month. As a short-term rental, I could probably make about, on that same 3-bedroom, 2-bath, during peak season, around $6K. And as a midterm rental, I can do about $5,000, $5,500 to $6K too. So between $5 and $6K, just depending on what contract I have in place, who's coming, how long they're staying, things like that. So, there's a lot of opportunity, not only in the short-term side, but also on the midterm side. 2X what you can from almost 3X what you do with the long-term. It's crazy.
And without all of the headaches of the short-term rental per se. So that's why our first video kind of just went viral, because one, that was my light bulb moment when we were talking. And it's so fun to see all the comments that are now on there of just everyone just
crazy. Well, I think, Josh, when that came out, we're coming out of COVID. That was like, what, 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. So nurses were under the spotlight. They're under the they're under the, what is that called? The monocle. What is that little thing what am I thinking right now?
If we go to medical devices, I don't know. I work in wine, man.
No, under like a microscope. Let's just leave it at that, those terms. Yep. So nurses were so under the microscope at that time, so that people were realizing, like, holy crap, there's a lot of travel medical professionals. If you realize COVID, there was not enough nurses, and it was being publicized through the media that there's not enough staff. People were quitting, people that were working for a long time. There's always been nursing shortages all over the place, like all the time. COVID just highlighted all those issues, because of the pandemic. Those issues are still happening now today, post-pandemic world, we're still running into these same exact situations. And I think that a lot of times us as investors don't realize the opportunity there. There's not enough people in the sector, and the people that are in this sector, they realize like, holy crap, I landed on a gold mine, and I don't either want to tell anybody about it or I do want to tell everybody about it, which is where I'm at, where I'm like, hey, I want you guys to succeed. I want people to kick ass and do well in this. And that's what I've been trying to kind of push and have people learn how to do this, because it's hard. It is not easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's sales, right? At the end of the day. And so real quick, just to talk about the benefits of midterm rentals, this is the last summary, and then I promise we're going to get more deep, is,
Go ahead, man.
so why is midterm rentals better than short-term rentals? We already know, you broke it down earlier, that it basically makes 2 to 3 times more than your regular long-term rental. But why do you prefer that over the traditional short-term rental model?
I had a student tell me the other day, she's like, I only need to have 4 people book my property a year. Does that if you think about it in those terms, like how many hundreds of people do we host as a short term? I can't even tell you how many people I've hosted in my lifetime as a short term rental. But in reality, we only need to have 4 guests that stay. And through those 4 guests, I'll still make the exact same amount of money, give or take a couple grand here and there, that I would as a short term with less of a headache. So a lot of the people that get into midterm rentals, they just don't have the time. They don't have the bandwidth to be able to take all these things on. They're either they have a 9 to 5 job that they're working on to eventually get out of that at some point, or they want to build enough business that they can eventually just do this on their own or have a side hustle. And I think that's where it's really, Josh, dude, I forget that I have nurses in these properties. Like, that's what I love about it. With short-term rentals, you always have somebody calling you up, and you have a short-term rental. Josh, hey, this is leaking, or this is going on, or hey, there wasn't a trash bag in the toilet, or whatever. There's trash bags in toilets now. But you know what I mean? Like, there wasn't a trash bag in the can. Like, just some of these little things. And with nurses, you don't have that. Like, they'll come in, I forget they're there, they're quiet. If there's an issue with the toilet or a sink or something, they'll say, hey, Jess, something's going on. We'll send a handyman over. Boom, done. And it's nothing like short-term rentals at all. It's the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, just for context for the viewers as well. So, our Joshua Tree Airbnb is up and running, and it's doing great. It's phenomenal. But the amount of times I've Instacarted things to the house already is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's customer service.
It's I'd rather spend $30 on some kind of Instacart than not get the 5-star reviews. So, especially if you're charging $400, $500, $600 a night, especially during Coachella. Anyways,
I get
for
it.
The midterm rentals, I do want to. You gave me kind of your latest listing, and so let me bring this up right now. And while I bring this up, for anyone who's watching right now live, thank you, by the way. And you have the opportunity now to ask some questions directly to Jesse. So we're going to do a deep dive of one of his listings, and then afterwards we'll get tactical and ask some of those questions that you have. But Jesse, what is this? What are we looking at here?
All right, so this sucker here, the Daisy Oasis with the pool. So I bought this property in Modesto on the MLS market for $540,000, I think. And I know what you guys are probably thinking right now. Why the hell would you spend that much money on a property? Well, first off, I knew that I was going to make, as a short-term rental, around $6,000 to $7,000 a month, easily. As a midterm rental, I was probably looking around $6,000 a month, and we've been doing that. We did something a little bit different than we would typically see on, especially in my market. So I wanted something that was kind of fun for people to come to, where they felt like they weren't in Modesto, or they felt like they were somewhere else. And to be honest with you, man, I've just rented this place out for $8,100 a month.
Wow.
For 6 months. So if you guys recently go to my Instagram and watch a video where I said how I made $49,000 just by sending an email, this is the property that I'm referring to here.
Gosh.
Talk about midterm rental. So 6 months out of the time, there was a family that was displaced locally from a fire. And the family was staying in 3 different hotels because they have a couple 18-year-olds. So they all had their individual rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And the insurance company was paying over $10,000 a month just for them to stay in the hotel. So the family was just like, we don't want to be in a hotel anymore. We can't eat dinner here anymore. I happen to gather, and this is something that I really think everybody needs to start doing right now. You need to think about your business as an actual business. Even if you're getting started right now, start putting together templates of insurance companies that are local in the area, corporate insurance companies like Farmers, Nationwide, every single one of those divisions has a specific person that deals with people that are displaced through fires. And you would not realize how often that actually happens. And if you have properties, you can rent them out for 4 to 5x what you would typically, get from a long-term rental. And that's exactly what happened for me. I put together this data list. I sent an email out, and the second email that I sent to them just to follow up, hey, we have a new property. Here's what we have going on. I got an inquiry back, and the housing provider at that moment said, hey, we have a family that's been displaced. They want to stay somewhere. Can you send me a couple links? And I'm like, yeah, I just got this place up. It's open right now. Let me know what you think. And just like that, boom, they wanted it. And I shot a number. I thought $8,100 was going to be too high for them. They messaged me back and said, perfect, we'll take it.
And that was the agent or the insurance company saying, we'll take it.
That was the insurance company saying they'll take it. The guest, so they sent that place, my specific, the handle that you have now that you were just looking through, they sent that link directly to the person that's been displaced, the family. They went through it and they're like, oh my God, we love it. Plus this is near where I work already anyway. So we want to dive into that. We want to get it. And that was it. Literally right then and there. It was just like, boom, rent
Okay,
it.
what is the budget for like $8,100? Like if you can just get that probably on your short-term rental as a vacation rental, like you'd be stoked about that. I mean, you obviously you did the great sales tactic where you started high, but like what is the usual amount and why did they pay so much?
So this property here, I had it listed for, it's on an algorithm on as a short-term rental. So it can go anywhere from $300 all the way up to $500, depending on if there's a concert coming into town or something. So I based that price off of what I would rent it out as the minimal amount that I would take. So it's $8,100. So if you did if you just did $300 a night for 30 days, that'd put you at $9,000, right? My weekends are always going to be a little bit higher. And anybody listening now, if you have a short-term rental, please charge more for the weekends because people will book that and they'll pay that. But that's where I based it off of. So we kind of did like a 15 to 20% deduction already just based off of that. So again, the insurance company was paying over $10K a month to have them in a crappy hotel, the Residence Inn. And, as a family, like you want to make sure everybody's together, that you can eat together. And that's what they brought up, that, we want to have a place where the kids can go jump in the pool and that we're going to be there for 6 months while my house is being rebuilt. And I talked to the owner myself, or the person that was displaced myself. She told me her whole story. And yeah, it's a win-win, man. I'm able to help somebody in the community. I'm also obviously able to make a pretty decent amount. So my mortgage on this place is $2,000 plus I have about a $600 per month, taxes that I pay. So all in, I'm about $2,600. And let's just add an extra $500 there for water, sewer, garbage, electricity. So all in $3,100. I'm getting $8,100.
Wow, dude, just okay. If you're watching this right now and you want one of those deals, like let us know what you think of that deal in the comments. You can drop any kind of fire emojis or whatever emojis you want, just for fun. But God, I mean, I would love to have that much just booked consistently. Like that is amazing.
6 months, Josh. Like 6 months. In my contract, I get to go walk that property every month because we know when we have long-term renters, they tend to mess things up. In the contract that I have in there, I walk through the property every month. So I get to go in, see what's going on, see what's doing there. I met the family already. They're really nice people. And that's always been my issue. Is like, I'm worried about people staying for X amount of time because people will thrash your property up. But you got to make sure that you put clauses in there to go in and take a look and see what the place looks like. You can do that monthly, just as like a long-term rental would. I'm staying on top of the owners or the people that are staying there right now, and really just kind of connecting with them. So you have to do those kind of things. But dude, it all came from an email.
Yeah, and do you have cleaners coming in too, like twice a week or something, or like twice a month?
No. So one of the beauties about midterm rentals is you could have cleaners that come in. That's an extra added bonus, which we do that. But with these particular people, they didn't want to have that. They're obviously going to be home.
Okay.
So yeah, we're not doing that, but you don't have to keep buying stuff either, like consumables. And you're probably going to ask this in a little bit with midterm rentals. You just literally have, the first month or whatever it is that they need, toilet paper, shampoo. Most people that are coming in are going to bring their own stuff anyway. They have their stuff that they're used to. Typically people that are short-term renting will just use whatever is there and then they don't care. But people that are going to be staying for longer term midterm rentals, like they are not going to care what shampoo's there. They're not going to care, they're going to go buy their own stuff anyway. So you're cutting a lot of expenses out just by having somebody in the midterm space as well too.
Yeah. And so, okay. you got this directly through that insurance contact. Like how does someone find someone like that locally to just even reach out to?
Yeah, so you just Google, good old friend Google. You just go on Google and you type in insurance companies. That literally, it's that easy. The local insurance companies, and you just call them. There's a billion of them. They're all over the place. There's insurance companies, mom and pop insurance companies, all over the place in your area. So I just called, started getting together lists of who the individual brokers are, what their email addresses are, and then I start putting it together like a tickler. So I'll send an email biweekly if we get a new property that comes onto our market. We'll send an email saying, and that's exactly what happened. I just said, hey guys, just want to let you know we have a new property. It's downtown Modesto. It's a 3-bedroom with a studio, and this place has a pool. It's really nice outfitted. We spent X amount of money having an interior designer come in here. Just want to let you know it's available now.
Wow.
Literally all it was. That's what it was an email that sent out. And I think we forget that we overcomplicate the crap out of things, that we need to do all these extra steps, but really what it's all about is consistency. The more consistent you are with anything that you're doing, the better you're going to get at it, the more eyes are going to see it. Even if you think they're not really reading it,
I love it. And again, if you guys are watching, you have any questions, let us know in the comments. I'll pull them up in a second. I have a few more questions about this listing in general.
Yeah.
So I noticed, last time in our part 1 episode, we talked about you can also list it on Airbnb and VRBO and the other booking platforms. And of course, Furnished Finder was kind of a big, I think, focus for that first one.
Mm-hmm.
This one, though, let's talk about direct booking.
Huge.
So how essential is it to have, as you're starting to reach out, even to your hospital contacts, to your insurance contacts, like how has having a direct booking site played in kind of your success so far?
So this is something I explain to my students too. The more professional you look, the better it is. So if you're sending somebody a cold email, have a landing page that you put together so that somebody can, as an insurance agent, can go in and just see, let's just say 5 things that you're doing for people in the community. So that's, you have a house that's available. You're working on, creating a list for insurance companies for people who are displaced, just basically stating something. So the way I look at it is you're selling your opportunities to these individuals that potentially could use your services. And that's what you should have displayed on your, landing page. And you can, Josh, you can get a landing page put together for less than $100, literally.
Yeah.
You just buy a domain and you have somebody from like Wix.com go in and just create or you can even create it yourself, a very simple landing page where people could just see what you're doing. Maybe a picture of yourself doing a thumbs up, something that shows that people can see.
So this is the page that you sent to the insurance agents, or do you have another kind of, here's what AirVenture Hosting Co. is, view all my listings? What do you normally send them to?
I have another page that they go to and look at. So, and then I even have flyers that we send out. And this is stuff that I show people in my class. Like I'll put together these flyers that are sent out that show how much each property is per night, what the amenities they have. We also have cars, like I would mention before. We have vehicles that guests can rent, or that these travel medical professionals can rent. We have grocery delivery service. So we have basically, it's an all-inclusive package. Somebody literally parks their car, or excuse me, flies in to like SFO, gets an Uber, and they check into my place with the keypad and the car's in the garage. Everything's set up for them to go. They don't have to bring their own vehicle or have it shipped or anything like that. So, and right now to rent cars, you guys, it's super freaking expensive. If you guys just go to like enterprise.com or expedia.com and you just type in compact car, just to rent a car for 30 days right now, it's over $2,400 a month. It's insane. So imagine if you had like a 2010 Honda Civic that somebody can rent for $1,600 a month. Your car payment's $200, and you're cash flowing all that other stuff on top of that. So there's just a lot of opportunities. You got to think about it in a different perspective.
Yeah, and that's also just a strong differentiator for yourself between other operators. So kudos to you.
100%.
Well, let's jump into some of the questions that I got off of Instagram and from the previous YouTube video, and also as well as things that I came up with. So let's go on to this one. Let's go an Instagram question first. So real quick, how do you identify a good tenant?
Yeah, identifying a good tenant. Well, I typically go after travel agencies. So the agencies are doing a lot of the vetting for you already. There's a thing on Furnished Finder called Key Check, And that key check app will actually basically do a background check on anybody coming into your property. So that's the first thing that you should do. And there's a bunch of other softwares that check people's backgrounds, whether they're renting, if they've had good rental status. But that's typically what I use. And the other reason why I like to go through the corporate route by getting an actual corporate contract is because those companies are liable for the guests that are in there.
Hmm.
So if there's a problem, I get to go to this big giant corporate company instead of somebody that's just in the house. And for the most part, tenants that come from travel agencies or nurses themselves that are traveling, they're not problems at all. I've never run into any issues at all. So yeah, that's the least on my worry list, when it comes to the tenants coming in.
Gotcha. No, that's good to know. How about for this one? So you reached out to the agencies directly. What if you only have one midterm rental? Like how are your students at first positioning themselves as operators?
Half of my students don't even have their first place yet. They're just learning the ropes. They're learning on what to do, how to communicate with people. And I think that's the most important part, is actually starting to understand the business that you're getting into, understanding that relationships are the new currency. They're the most important part of literally everything you do when you're connecting with these agencies. So whether you have 0 properties or you only have one, as long as you're stating what you could do to help people, you have a landing page, that's basically all you need. I think with one property, that's more than enough to get started. I don't think there really you have to, have this big network of individuals, and people resonate more with individuals that are transparent. I would call, if I had one property, I'd call an agency and say, hey, my name's Jesse. I, own a company called Stat Housing Company. And for those of you, I just made that up. Maybe just go ahead and snag that for yourself. Stat Housing Company. And what I do is I help travel medical professionals relocate into a new place safely. We have a property that's in a really good market that has very safe ratings. Here's a list of 3 things that I think that you would benefit, that your travelers would benefit from. And then boom, 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 you just go down your list. And then you just ask questions. I think that's another thing that we tend to forget about, is like, you have to ask how people operate in order to uncover the needs, because most people don't know, or most of these travel agencies don't really know they need somebody to work with in that level. And you just really uncover what it is that they have going on. And a lot of times, like on our first conversation, Josh, nurses are here and they're already in my market and don't even realize that, how hard it is to find a property. And they're just staying in hotels and stuff. So those opportunities are all around us. You just have to, again, kind of seek them.
Yeah. I mean, it's picking up the phone is probably the scariest thing at first, but you do get used to it. So, and you can learn a lot just from asking with the other person, who the agency, who the HR professional. You can actually uncover their needs, and then once you solve their problems, like, that's just sales 101, right? So,
yeah, in my class, I play live calls that I've made to these agencies. And literally in one of my calls, it's like 6 minutes long, I asked 22 questions. How freaking annoying, right? But at the end of the day, I ended up getting the recruiter I needed to get to. I ended up getting a contract with that agency. I ended up finding their pain points, because just like with any successful business, you solve problems, you're going to be able to build a business off of it. And you can't solve problems unless you find out how they're operating. And that's
yeah.
really one of the most important parts. And you got to like actively be listening too. I think when we make phone calls, when I first started off, Josh, I'd call and be like, I'm thinking of the next question I was going to ask, rather than actually listening to what they were saying. And I think a lot of times we forget that, is, we're in our heads for those conversations. It's scary. It feels uncomfortable. We're not used to it, especially if you're an introvert like I am by nature. So this stuff comes not easy to me, and to most people, it's not really that easy, but there's a methodical way to do it.
For sure. And the last, maybe kind of piggybacking on that one, that I would give somebody who's listening to this, if you are new to sales, is make your list that Jesse was talking about. So if you had 20 agencies, 20 hospitals that you want to call, and call the one that you want the least first, and the one that you want the most last. So that by the end of you make 20 calls, you know what questions they ask, you know how to answer those questions, and you're a little bit more confident. And if you lose the first 10, then who cares? Because you didn't want them anyways.
Yeah, I would actually start that last call off by saying, I'm calling you last because you're the one that I really want to work with the most.
Look at that. I like that.
Yeah, that's
it's always fun
exactly
talking to the salesperson. Okay. Let's go into, we just finished tax season. Maybe, I don't know where you are. And again, none of us, we're not financial professionals or anything like that. But I know if you have been interested in long-term rentals and short-term rentals, and have seen kind of the new cost segregations for short-term rentals, if you are the operator, that there are a lot of good resources where it could potentially offset your W-2 because they're active. Where does midterm, at least in terms of what you've heard from other like CPAs, like where does midterm fit in that bucket?
It falls under the same guidelines as if you had a long-term rental, because that's how we can skirt around all these ordinances, right? We're not short-term renting. 28 days or less is considered a short-term rental. 29 days or more is considered a midterm rental. So midterm rentals can be 29 days to 6 months. That's what a midterm rental is considered. So you fall under the same tax benefits that you would as a long-term rent. So that's all those things, Josh, are really important because you're buying furniture for these properties. You can depreciate all that 100% of your all the purchases that you make within that first year if you wanted to. You can depreciate it over the next 5 years. You really could pick and choose how you want to do that. So, like for me, if it's a big purchase, I'll depreciate everything over the next year, like right away. Last year, I spent I think $25,000 on that property you guys just seen to outfit it and have somebody come in and really help me figure it out. So $25K on that. So I'm able to depreciate all that this year to offset my W-2 because I had a W-2 job last year up until July. So I can offset that right from the very beginning. So a lot of the same situations as far as like buying furniture and things are the same as if you were to long-term rent. Now, if you put this under an LLC, you can fall under a business. You can do everything that you would do with a typical business anyway. So if you purchase a property that you know you're going to use as a midterm rental, you put it under an LLC. You have the same benefits that you would as a as a business. So there's a lot of really awesome tax benefits. Obviously, with real estate, it's one of the easiest and one of the best ways to offset those earnings.
Okay. Well, that hopefully answer you guys' question on the tax side. And again, none of us are financial professionals, so don't really ask us. Go out and ask your CPA.
Yeah.
You name dropped this a little bit earlier. So we have you did a podcast with the CEO of Furnished Finder. What was his name again?
Brian Payne.
Okay, so you did an interview with Brian Payne, and that's on Jesse's channel, which you can find all of his stuff in the description link down below. What were the major takeaways that you got from that interview?
I'm going to be honest. When I interviewed Brian, his mind is in a different place. Like he's all about wanting to help people grow and have I think he wants to be a platform to have people stay for 30. Like he wants to be a midterm rental space. But I don't think he really understands. And I was trying to like push this on him. For those of you listening, you can kind of hear me talking about this. In the investment world, Furnished Finder is a really big deal. Like there's probably a lot more people that go into Furnished Finder to list their properties. These old school mentality people that are finally starting to realize like, crap, I can make, instead of $300 a door, I can make now $1,000 a door. And I can do this by midterm renting, which is less hassle, less headache. I don't think he looked at it that way. And I was trying to really have him understand that in that sense, that how big, I mean, how many meetups do we go to, Josh, where people talk about midterm rentals and Furnished Finder?
A lot.
It's insane. So I don't even think his head is there yet, but I think he has got a totally different perspective. He's looking at things in a different light, and him and I have a very similar background. We both came from, med sales. But obviously he went and created this big platform. He didn't do it alone. He talked about not being able to do things alone, that you have to have a team. And I think for a lot of people, especially listening now, you got to ask for help. You got to ask to learn how to do things. You got to ask to figure a way out. You can't just do everything on your own. And that's what he did, obviously, getting people as software engineers and things to create this. So yeah, man, he's doing some really cool things.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting that you say that. And if you haven't listened to that interview, then make sure you go onto Jesse's podcast, The Big Break Show, and listen to that.
Yeah, it's really good.
Maybe the follow-up question to this, as we just talk about different booking platforms, is how many of your bookings are coming from a booking platform like Airbnb and Furnished Finder or direct? Like, what does that ratio look like for you? If you had to ballpark it.
I would probably say, well, the midterm rentals, everything comes from Furnished Finder. We're going through and checking all the people that are coming in. If there's nurses that are advocating for a property, we're calling them to see what type of type of place they're looking for. If they found a space already. So if I had to give a breakdown, I would say probably 60% come from Airbnb, I don't know, maybe 40, no, 30, maybe 20 something percent come from Furnished Finder, and then the other remaining is just like VRBO or whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
every market has their own different. We have direct bookings that happen too. So I pay for Google Ads, Google Analytics, Google SEO. So if somebody types in short-term rentals Modesto, my listings will pop up for the space, or hotels Modesto, and we pay per click. And those per clicks, it might be 30 cents. It doesn't matter, but because at the end of the day, we're getting paid, and you're getting away from those Airbnb fees. And we
Mm-hmm.
can't be reliant on Airbnb, Josh. We really can't. I think that a lot of us are. If Airbnb happens to shut you down for whatever reason, a party or something like that, all your business is gone.
Yeah.
It's done. So you have to really think about getting in different avenues and getting bookings from different platforms, and not just being heavily reliant on Airbnb to do that job for you, because it's not as safe. We need to have exit strategies, right? Just like with
Mm-hmm.
anything. And it's really important to think about those things from the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as you diversifying your portfolio. You're just making sure that whatever attention is coming onto your business, which is that 1 or 20 listings, can get traffic from multiple spots.
Yeah. Can I bring this up real quick? So,
Yeah.
so, and one of the reasons why this is so important to think about exit strategies. So, in my city that I live in, Modesto, and for those of you that follow me on the Instagram, you probably seen me talk about this the last couple of days. They're proposing a short-term rental ordinance in my market, which it's a rural market. There's quite a bit of Airbnbs now, probably because I talk about how good it is here. Um, but so there's a lot of short-term rentals that just came into the market. So if there's an ordinance that comes into play, if I was reliant on just short-term rentals, I would be totally screwed right now. But luckily, I have midterm rentals that I can always divert to that don't fall under that category. And the problem with the city is that they're actually putting a short-term rental under a bed and breakfast. They're saying it's the same thing. So they want us to have somebody living on site. You pay somebody that's taking care of the property. I think they're wanting somebody to live there, but the problem is um, there's a gray area. They're like, Josh, you can have a place and want to rent. You put your place on Airbnb. I can have a place, and they can just say, Josh, we like you better. We're going to get your place up. Jesse, sorry, you wear glasses and are a nerd, so we can't have you do that. There's no like clear cut specific things, but for me now, Josh, since I have midterm rentals, I can pivot into that. So you have to have an exit strategy. So
Yeah.
anybody listening now, please think about those first before you even get involved in the short-term rental space.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I think hopefully if you've been subscribed to my channel, you know the struggles that we went through to launch in Yucca Valley, the Joshua Tree area. So that was quite a permit battle. But find out what the regulations are in your city and attack those first. That should almost be like the number one thing you do before you even pick your location. Although if you are doing midterm rentals, then I guess that's different.
Yeah, doesn't matter. That's how you get around those issues, and you have a way out. So you're not just heavily reliant on the short-term space. So it is a little bit. It's more work. I'm not going to lie about that. I mean, it is 100% more work, especially if you're going the contracting route. It's not easy, but there's more upside. And just as more people are getting involved with short-term rentals, I mean, how many people are getting involved that were never involved in short-term rentals now? Hundreds of thousands, millions, right? There's going to be more ordinances that are going to be put in place. If you live in a space that doesn't have an ordinance, there will be one eventually at some point. So you have to think about it. Even cities that have ordinances, they can change those. All it takes is one negative comment, a shooting to happen on Airbnb in the city to focus on that,
Mm-hmm.
a party to happen, somebody to take drugs. And, that's literally what happens in how markets shift and change. So you have to be ready for the unexpected at any moment.
I like it. Well, let's do a quick maybe lightning round for some last few Instagram questions that we got here. Let's pull this one up. There you go. So do you include shampoo, soap, laundry detergent, all kind of the basic necessities in your listings for midterm?
Yeah, only for like the first couple of weeks, like I was mentioning before, because most people are going to bring their own stuff anyway. And actually, even after 3 months with people moving out, I've seen the same shampoo there, the same stuff that nobody even touched because they brought their own stuff. So, yeah, I definitely leave a couple of weeks worth of shampoo, conditioner. We'll have like, I don't know, a Costco roll of toilet paper in there, but that's it. You don't have to supply all that stuff a month after month, just like you would as a short-term rental. So just a small amount is all you need. Most guests are going to buy their own.
I like it. So
Cost savings.
what locations are bad? Like what would you just avoid for midterm
Yeah.
again?
Yeah. So if you're looking at hosting travel medical professionals, you're gonna want to be in a safe neighborhood. But that's what I would recommend doing. So I would stay away from anywhere that has high transient population markets. I know that we can't get away from that even here where I'm at or in the city. It's just part of how it is. But you got to try to buy a place or rent a place or arbitrage a place in a space where somebody feels okay, comfortable at nighttime. People, especially in the morning too. A lot of these nurses work 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So they're leaving at night, coming back really early in the morning. So those are things to think about. Safety is an important thing. And then a unique space. That's the most important, I feel, right now. And I've talked about this and I've preached it forever. Don't buy a cookie cutter house. Buy something that's a little bit different, that has a little appeal to it. A lot of times these investors will overlook those types of things. Those are the kind of properties that I'm seeking out. So somebody can provide a little bit more of an experience. Just like you saw in the listing earlier, that was like an older retro kind of home. But it has that feeling of, presence. It's kind of an experience when you get in there. So they're all a little bit different. They don't feel just like regular cookie cutter houses. So I would highly suggest, if you get involved in this, that you think about those things.
I love it. The last question I have for you is you've maybe have teased that you have a course, right? And now
Mhm.
that you've helped a few people through the process, what do you think is the number one roadblock for people getting started?
They don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. You guys heard me talk about this. You call a hospital and you just ask them if they have travel medical professionals. Well, then what? If there's a no, then what happens? And then what do I do after that? So I think that's kind of the roadblock, is that, people will not necessarily know what to do when they hit that block, but there's multiple different avenues to go down to get to the right person, to get to a recruiter, to get to an agency, and they're all over the place. So, and a lot of this goes back to sales. So in my class, I talk a lot about how to go maneuvering objections and rejections, because it's going to happen. You're going to have people that are going to tell you, quit calling me, leave me alone. There's different ways around different specific things in this atmosphere, and you got to be consistent with it. I think that's the most important thing, is that if you're not consistent with anything you do, just like if you're on a diet or you're exercising, if you're not consistent with that every week on a week, you're not going to have results. And that's exactly what it's the same concept when it comes to connecting with agencies and things like that. So I would say that's the biggest roadblock that people have, is that there's consistency that needs to be put in place, and then how to maneuver through objections and rejections.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jesse. I mean, I guess so. What's next for you? What are you working on? How can maybe someone help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for properties right now. So, as you guys all know, the properties are really high priced all over the place. Even in spaces where you would never think that prices would go up, they're going up. Don't let that deter you from purchasing property. So, I'm still looking for deals, either on market or off market. My goal this year is to buy 5 properties specifically for midterm rentals. So I'm working on actually picking up my second one for the year. So I should hopefully have that completed probably in the next month. We just put an offer on a place. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now. And I'm actually, Josh, going to start another masterclass here coming up pretty soon in May. I'm recording that to be so people could take it online and not just have to wait for a specific masterclass day. Because I have so many people that message and they're just like, I want to jump in, but I only do it live, once a quarter.
Hmm.
So I'm going to have this available for people to be able to go online and do, whenever they please at their own time frame, because it's a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Yeah, for sure. And so for those who are listening either live, thank you, or on the post play, his contact and Instagram is all linked down below. You can check out his YouTube channel, and he also has a podcast with Rafa Loza, The Big Break Show. And I like the first, I don't know, was it the first like 5 episodes? You guys literally just went and uncovered the script either for arbitrage or for hosting midterm rentals. So you can get almost, I'd say, the teaser of the class all in those 5 podcast episodes.
Totally. Yeah. Or even on the YouTube videos, like there's a ton of information there. If you're looking at getting started, just watch those first 5 YouTube videos and you'll get a ton of information on where to go, what to start doing, how to evaluate a market. There's a lot of information in that, and it's all for free.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, thank you so much. And for those watching, thank you as well. Make sure if you do like this content, like it, I guess, and also
Thumbs up.
subscribe to Jesse's channel too, because he just dropped so much knowledge. This is part 2. And if you want to make, what is that? Basically $50,000 in 6 months on one listing on a go, like, God, that's just
Crazy, right?
crazy. That's
Doesn't even seem
crazy.
real. Doesn't even seem real.
Yeah, no, I mean,
But
that's
it's,
like,
dude, it's real. It is real, and anybody can do it. And that's the thing, is that you just have to put intention behind what you're doing. But it can happen.
Okay, well, I am excited as we're launching our first midterm in Columbus. You've been super helpful to me, and hopefully the viewers find value too. If you did, make sure to comment down below how much you've enjoyed this episode. If you have other questions, we can bring them back eventually for round 3. Maybe we do a property tour next time.
Well, heck yeah, sounds fun, man.
Well, Jesse, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.
And
Cheers.
cheers. See you, all you guys, on the next one. So, if you enjoy the episode, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you made it to the end, comment down below midterm rentals again, because it was really fun to see who made it to the end of part 1, which is also linked down below. But you guys are super warriors. I appreciate you guys. So midterms down below, and I will love you guys all forever. Thank you again so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.